derivatives that it comes from CBD and hemp.
And Puerto Rico does love concrete.
We do.
Puerto Rico's always building everything out of concrete. Entire houses out of concrete, like grow spaces, everything. And so I remember when there was the big crunch on supplies, like the cost of concrete went way up. There's a lot going on there. And so, and I guess, actually, I'll pivot quickly to the question, hemp. So you have a good amount of growers of regular medical cannabis, and, there are dispensaries who are making products. But what about the hemp side of things? Are we seeing people throwing down hundreds of acres and then extracting it, or is it not really taking off?
Of products that are coming out, but again, because people are not educated when it comes to cannabis and hemp, they still don't know. Most of them don't know the difference. So it's been growing slowly. I've seen about three or four hemp cultivations here in the island, and they are making their own products and partnering with the different artists and different people locally. And it's just a matter of educating, and it's much easier and cheaper than getting the licensing for the cannabis in the dispensary. It's just a matter of, again, educating our people about hemp and how we could go back to growing and investing in our own island, because again, hemp is something that we can export, and what better way than to create more income for our island and being able to export hemp, which we could grow all year round. So, and it's much more easier and accessible. So, and we've seen a growth of expats, coming in the island because of that, because there's second, third generation expats that are finding themselves with their grandma's land. Like most of us are, it's like, what do we do with it? What can we do with it? So a great way is to invest in cannabis. Hemp, it's way easier. So that's something that, if you want to come back to the island, it's a great way to explore how, you could be part of our beautiful island and our cannabis community here in Puerto Rico.
I'm going to see if we got Raul. Do we have Raul?
We do.
Raul, sí, I see Raul.
¿Qué pasó, querida? Saludos.
Raul, I don't know if we have your audio.
I can hear you. Wait, maybe we don't. I'm not sure. Let me see if I got the mic on. Okay.
With the audio, maybe with his audio.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it must be with the mic. Is it plugged into the phone or whatever you're using to record? Is there a mic on?
Yeah. Is it? You can't hear me? No?
Yeah, Raul was able to hang out. And it's funny too, because Raul is like the mobile radio station all by himself.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yes. And he has great info. He's into cryptocurrency, and so I would definitely like to connect back, because there's a lot of crypto talk when it comes to cannabis.
You can't hear me?
From your phone, I don't know if that'll work.
You can't hear me?
We're going to talk.
See, let me see if I could call him and maybe
Do it that way, that could work. You can try that, or I can do that too.
audio in. Okay.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Let me try it.
One.
Basically
I can hear you. I can hear you perfectly fine.
Okay, great.
Well,
I think we're
hey,
gonna go with this for now.
saludos a todos. Happy Hanukkah, happy everything that we're celebrating during these days. I can just hear the feedback. So let me lower this a little bit down. All right. So my name is Raul Morris. I am Puerto Rico's cannabis chef. I've been doing cannabis cooking for the last 7 years. I know you're going to ask me some questions, but I was listening to Francis. Francis, querida, un abrazo. Long time no see. I think since last year, right? We on the island have a success story when it comes to cannabis. You know, we have over 100 dispensaries all over the island, over 130 or 140,000 people already registered. It's so successful that a lot of these politicians want to precisely own the wealth that comes from it. So that has a lot to do with a lot of the decision making behind these politicians, incluyendo, you mentioned earlier, Pierluisi, and all of the ones that have been since 2017, since the law had able people to be able to create these dispensaries and farms and all. So what we do know is that there is a great interest from part of the Puerto Rican people and the people who live here who are not Puerto Ricans in cannabis and legalizing cannabis, or acá se llama despenalizar, which means unpenalized. And this discussion that's been going on recently, there's a new senator called Ferrer, I don't remember his first name now. He's been pushing it, and there's also someone else that we know that is part of that movement. That's Dr. Vargas Vidot. That he's one of our health. He's a senator, and he's been in the Senate for the last 4, I think more like 7 or 8 years. And he's an advocate for the unpenalizing and treating people with respect and doing this the right way, the way we want to do it, without persecuting people and making them feel like they're doing something evil, no? But like I said, we're a success story.
Nice. So why don't you give us a little background more about yourself and how you got involved with,
Okay.
with cannabis?
Here's my book. My book is La Alchemia del Sofrito Canábico. It's a cookbook in Spanish, written about 2 years ago. I started the tour. I'm a social worker. I'm also a professor of graphic design. So the reason why I've been involved with cannabis for over 10 years, I've been involved in cannabis as an activist, mainly because I totally believe I'm born and raised in New York City, so I know cannabis probably from, I don't know, from Lincoln Hospital, you know. So when I moved to Puerto Rico, I had started to understand what was going on in California and Colorado, right, about the legalizing. I've been here for somewhat years, but the movement and understanding how it works and how it prevents the government from persecuting our communities, which is why I understand today it's been illegal, or this whole movement from Nixon on and even before that, and how it's a threat to a lot of big corporations, precisely the pharmaceutical and other industries, like the plastic industry, like the industries like fuels industry, like agriculture industry, right? What we want to do is precisely how I've been involved in this. I've been involved in this as an educator, as a social worker, as someone who's been working with communities that have been persecuted. That's where I started. The whole cooking thing came about. I've been cooking. I do falafels. I'm probably one of 4 falafel makers on the island. Yeah, believe that, right? this Puerto Rican making falafels, a recipe I learned in San Francisco some time ago. And I've been wanting to experiment. And about 7 to 8 years ago, I started really integrating and decarbing and understanding how to bring it into the food and cooking for people with different conditions. That's how I again did some certifications on Cannabis Cooking University. I did 7 certifications on this institution, and ever since then, I wrote the book. I've been touring on the book and selling my coquito in New York City, in Chicago, in Puerto Rico. Anywhere I go, I bring my coquito with me. So that's where the whole story began.
So why don't you give some of our...
Oh, great question, great question. Well, coquito is like Boricua eggnog. It's a whole lot better than eggnog. As a matter of fact, it doesn't have any eggs in it. It has a lot of condensed milk. It has evaporated milk. It has coconut milk, coconut cream. It has pitorro or 151, which is alcohol. And it also has I infuse cannabis into it. That's what coquito is. Coquito is part of our culture. Coquito is like pasteles, you know, where we make pasteles and we make coquito in Christmas time. It's something that you give your neighbor. What is a recipe that your family has, that the recipes, the next door family has a different one. We protect our recipes with our lives, you know? Same thing with the pastel recipes and the coquito recipes. So coquito is that present that you give that family next door on Christmas time, instead of giving them something like physical, you know, like something tangible. You give them coquito. It's more of a way to say I love you. This is what coquito is all about. Boom. Oh yeah, you know, I've seen a lot of literature, but a lot of the stuff that's written, it's usually written in English. So I thought it was important to write a cannabis cookbook in Spanish. And this cannabis cookbook was created visiting the Dominican Republic, Cuba, Mexico. I also did some of the other like smaller islands in the Caribbean, like Curacao. I also did the Virgin Islands. I also did the Florida trip. I was looking for recipes that people in our Latino community would recognize, like taquitos, like ensalada de pulpo, like sangria, like coquito, like arroz con gandules, you know? So I put together 10 recipes. It's not just a recipe book, it also has information on cannabis, on endocannabinoid system, on the history of cannabis, on some of the legal aspects of, because it's an informational book also. It isn't just for cooking. It also has, I think the most important chapter is how to measure, how to decarb, and then how to bring it to your food, how to use what I call the vehicle, like, you know, olive oil or coconut milk or cheese or aceite de oliva, olive oil, you know, that all these different vehicles that you can use to integrate cannabis in your cooking. Okay, I think we lost over there. What's going on? Can you hear me still?
I can still hear you.
Okay. Yeah, the image. I'm in El Bosque Seco. You know that? I'm in dry forest. It's one of the most beautiful places on the island in Guanica. I precisely came here because I wanted to make sure that I sent the message out that Puerto Rico is still standing. This has been the place, this is the epicenter for more than 10,000 earthquakes in the last 2 years. So right now, I am in El Bosque Seco. I'm in the dry forest, and it's one of the most beautiful places you'd want to come and visit. The reason also is to reboot the economy, ask people to come to the island, visit us, you know, come to Puerto Rico, come and smoke our wonderful weed. We got some of the best weed in the world. That's a fact. That's a fact. So come to the island, enjoy the island. Nah, no. Straight to the point. Come get some weed, people. This is a wonderful place to enjoy. Some of the best beaches in the world, and I totally recommend that everyone that can during the next few months, run away from that cold, run away from that snow. Bring it to the Caribbean and bring it to Puerto Rico, more precise. I think that the sangria and the coquito recipe. I also this octopus salad that you guys tasted when we met a couple of years back. Yeah, that's one of my favorites too. And I think that I also do el flan. Flan is very, yeah. Flan is just, it's awesome, and it's a great way to meet people. So flan, there's a lot of, yeah, the flan and the coquito and the sangria are one of my favorite recipes. Yeah.
Wow. All right. And so for aspiring cannabis chefs that are interested by your work, how did you get started? What was the way that really kind of got you that groove to do it for real?
Well, I'm still kind of a revolutionary. I don't think that you're supposed to, on the island, do cannabis cooking. I don't know of any other chef that's out there like myself. I know that people that are cooking. I know there's several people that are doing some cooking and probably selling on the ground, right? But I don't know of any chef out there who's doing what I do, which is streaming, which is doing his cannabis cooking, Canal de Cocina Canábica on YouTube, and it's out there selling his coquito. The community is still a little bit ambiguous on how to do this. But if I was gonna recommend to someone how to do it, hey, just go out there and start doing your recipes. You do your family recipes, and give me a call. I've been. This is not a secret. I'm willing to share every single thing that I know. Precisely, that's why I wrote the book. I think the more people that know about cannabis, the more people who consume cannabis, the more people who understand the history of cannabis, it legitimizes every single one of us that consumes cannabis. And it also helps educate the political, structures, and who are the ones who are supposed to know more about this, And I really think they don't. So I really recommend people to just start experimenting. Just go out there, use your family recipes, and integrate. Decarb. Learn how to decarb. Learn how to how to extract the cannabinoids and bring them to your oils, and bring them to your milk, and bring them to your vehicles, and eventually bring them to your food. So I totally think that you should do what I do, revolutionize. Just don't even ask, because there isn't a permissology. You can't ask for a permit to become a cannabis cook on the island. You can't. I don't know of that process, and if there is someone doing it, I haven't heard of it, and I've been doing this for the last 7 years. So it isn't something that I think that there's a format. I think they're still trying to control the economic side of this. I personally do my cooking for free. I usually do my cooking in workshops and community homes where people just invite me and put together 5-6 people, and I want to teach them what I know so they can keep on. And even people with conditions, like some people will buy the weed, I'll go to their home and cook it and teach them how to cook it so they can do it from then on. So anybody can just give me a call, and I'm just willing to do it. That's what I do for a living. I teach people. That's why I'm a social worker, and I think that understanding the information, sharing the information is powerful, because it gives us legitimize. It legitimizes the whole cannabis movement worldwide, not just here. But Dominican Republic, you still go and get arrested for having a joint. In places, Puerto Rico too. But I'm saying in places like Cuba, it's really difficult to get weed. You could get weed in Cuba, but it's difficult to get weed. It's very bad quality. Mexico is really opening up, and that's a wonderful, because Mexico has a lot of culture, and a lot of food, a lot of ways to distribute and experiment, cooking. So that's what we want to do. We want Chile, we want Argentina, we want all these other countries to get involved in this, because this, we know, has been unjust for the 70 or 80 years. These laws have been implemented in our communities and have been used to persecute the marginalized communities. And now that we are in a position where we can bring our our paladar, you know, our taste buds into the effect, our creativity, our healings through this medicine. We need to get and jump on it.
You just mentioned a lot
other countries besides
so maybe we can talk a little bit about the global cannabis movement and how we can organize together
Yeah.
to really get something done here. You know, even if the United States is not going to do it, figure it out ourselves.
You know, you remember we started working on this about 2 years ago. When I say we, I mean you and Frances and a lot of other compañeros on the island about the la coalición canábica caribeña, and that's still, you know, that's still very much there, and it's just a matter of keep opening up and then reactivating, you know, post the closings, right? Post COVID, and going back to contacting Dominican Republic, going back to contacting Cuba, Mexico, and putting all these groups together so we can unite, you know, and force a lot of these archived politicians who are letting themselves be pushed from the religious. There's kind of control, because the religious organizations on this island are also the ones who get the funds to treat people who have some sort of condition when it comes to drug related conditions. So there's sort of a monopoly here going on, and what I mean by saying this is that they also influence the politicians in maintaining the illegality of this, so they can also keep using it as a way of acquiring or getting money. But going back to the Caribbean, I think there's still a lot of work to be done, for example, but I know of movements in the Dominican Republic that are happening. They're small, but they're happening, and they obviously don't have anywhere near as great weed as we have, and it's still very seen. Yeah, and I totally say that because I, you know, I've tasted what they do over there, and I tasted what they do in Mexico, and it's a little, you know, it's a little disappointing. We have great weed in Puerto Rico. Bring it! I'm telling you, this is awesome weed. So I know that eventually, you know, a lot of the crime that's connected in the Dominican Republic to the illegalized transport that comes to Puerto Rico, and eventually 80% of all drugs that come through the island end up in the U.S. You know, we know the corridors that have been established for decades, you know, that being crossing the Mexican border or coming through the Caribbean, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Puerto Rico. You know, those are the corridors that keep a lot of control over the politicians. We can't pretend to be ingenuous, you know, like that this is not really going on, and that judges and lawyers and all these great people with power, I shouldn't say great, but people with power are involved in maintaining the illegality of every single thing, because they make a lot of money from putting people in jail. They make a lot of money from persecuting people and all that stuff about selling guns and making bigger jails. That's all part of this conversation. So how do we do this in our brothers in the Dominican Republic and Cuba? There's still a lot of work to be done. In Mexico, there's still a lot of work to be done. But I think a way to get to a man's and a woman's heart is through the food. So cooking is a wonderful tool to get closer to everyone.
I'm going to come back to phrases. Well, me first. If Raul made a medicated flood, you think Fray Luigi would try it?
I think it would. Raul is such a great chef. You never know what's happening. It is. And, anyway.
So I want to ask you also the question of how can Latinos around the Caribbean join together, maybe to help the effort to build up power, to find identity, look a lot more united, movement, get industry now, all people and, you know, some of us are doing more than others, and so there's definitely lots of African American folks that are definitely pushing to get their piece of the pie, but it's some of us, it's less organized and official capacity.